Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. General Miyares, thank you for your great leadership and partnership. Sheriff Chapman, thank you for the service that you provided to Loudoun County now for a dozen years. You have changed the entire living experience for folks there. It's just to such a grand degree. So thank you. I want to thank all of our law enforcement heroes and our elected representatives who are with us today. This is a terribly important comment, a terribly important moment for us, because at the heart of Virginia being the very best place to live and work and raise a family is a safe Virginia. And at the heart of a safe Virginia is our law enforcement heroes. And I want to thank each and every one of you for putting on a badge every day to go to work, for putting others' interests ahead of yours, for your family sacrifice, and allowing and supporting all that you do, and recognizing that Virginia and America is a system that values the rule of law. And that is at the heart of what we are talking about. A series of laws that require the cooperation of local, state, and federal resources in order to keep Virginians and Americans safe. And yet, we have seen over the course of the last 4 years, chaos unleashed with drugs, drug dealers, terrorists, Americans living in fear, as we have watched every state become a border state. And it not only disrupts the safety and security of all neighborhoods, but it has been fueled by a lenient and outright hostile policy by some cities, so-called sanctuary cities, that recklessly and unnecessarily endanger the safety of Virginians. Several localities and several jails in Virginia have implemented sanctuary policies in recent years that include not recording immigration status, ignoring orders issued by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, they're called detainers, and neglecting to notify ICE prior to releasing an inmate. And as a direct result of these reckless and flagrant irresponsible policies, violent criminals are allowed back into our communities. And folks, I'm not talking about somebody jaywalking or going 30 in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. These are violent criminals who are in custody, and because of these reckless policies, are let back on the street. You just heard Sheriff Chapman describe some of the challenges in Loudoun County. I can tell you that these are violent criminals. Just in our own state Department of Corrections facilities, we have about 940 inmates that have open immigration detainers. And let me just be clear, 9 out of 10 of these inmates that have open immigration detainers are violent criminals. 2 out of 10 are murderers. As I said, these are not folks guilty of jaywalking. Now, let me be clear. Virginia is not a sanctuary state. The Virginia Department of Corrections completely and totally complies and cooperates with ICE. Judge Dotson and his team honor ICE detainers. They proactively coordinate with ICE. They do what they can to help federal enforcement deport these criminals so that they do not end up back on our streets or back in our prisons. And the vast majority of our local leaders, law enforcement leaders, and elected leaders across Virginia, including those that are on stage with me, cooperate with ICE. But there are a handful of local leaders who, for the sake of pandering to a special interest group, trying to make a political statement, or some other unknown reason, have turned their back on their constituents and adopted policies where they do not cooperate with ICE. And that's why today I will be introducing no sanctuary cities amendments that will be included in my budget proposals next week. And these no sanctuary cities amendments will also ensure that Virginia taxpayers are not funding local authorities who are refusing to comply with federal laws to deport illegal immigrants who commit violent crimes. My no sanctuary cities proposal says something very simple. Local law enforcement and local jails shall recognize and respect ICE detainers. Local law enforcement and jail officials must fully comply with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detainers and provide notification to ICE 48 hours prior to the release of a criminal illegal immigrant. If localities adopt sanctuary city practices or laws that block or impede the communication and cooperation with ICE, they will lose funding from the state. It's that simple. We are protecting Virginians first. We respect the rule of law. We will ensure coordination between local, state, and federal authorities. We will standardize procedures. And all of this will enhance public safety. At the end of the day, we are going to make sure that there are consequences for non-compliance, because the consequences to Virginians are dire. Public safety, and even worse, death. There is a recognition nationwide that border security is at the forefront of Americans' concerns. The most recent election was clear. Having thousands of people pour over our border every day is wrong and dangerous. Letting violent criminals out of jail and back into our communities who shouldn't be here in the first place is robbing law-abiding citizens of their right to safety. And as I said, we are a land of laws. Laws must be enforced. If anyone questions the merits of our no sanctuary cities policy, you only have to think of a 14-year-old who was sexually assaulted by an illegal immigrant from Venezuela right here in Virginia. I'd ask them to remember last month, as the Attorney General acknowledged, a young woman who was raped on a hiking trail in Herndon. She was raped by an illegal immigrant who had a criminal history that extended so deep and so far back, and yet Fairfax County's sanctuary policies enabled that criminal to be released back on the streets without notifying ICE. A young woman, just 19, a student at Old Dominion University, was killed in a car crash with an illegal immigrant with multiple run-ins with law enforcement and who was ordered deported 6 years ago. Killed her in a violent automobile accident. She had her whole life stolen from her. My friends, there are examples all over the Commonwealth, and we know the examples around the nation. From Laken Riley to Rachel Morin to Jocelyn Nungery in Texas. These are horrific circumstances, and we have the capacity to try to stop them now. And that is to introduce common sense ramifications and requirements that our federal law enforcement heroes are fully cooperated with by local and state authorities. When the Attorney General and Lieutenant Governor and I were sworn in 3 years ago, we took an oath, we swore in a Bible that we would uphold and support and defend the Constitution, that we took upon ourselves one of the greatest obligations, which is to keep Virginians safe. There are many other ways that we have served, but I have to say, the work to keep Virginians safe is constant. This no sanctuary city policy builds on all of the collective efforts that we have made to bring down violent crime in Virginia, to reduce murder rates, to no longer have to tell parents that their child died from a fentanyl overdose, to no longer have parents called 24 hours after there has been a drug overdose in schools. We've worked hard together through Operation Bold Blue Line, where we have indeed seen a 34% reduction in murders in our most dangerous cities. The Attorney General's leadership in Operation Ceasefire, where we have been dismantling gangs and gang violence. It's working. But we have to take common sense steps. And today we are taking a common sense steps for no sanctuary cities in the Commonwealth of Virginia. To close, let me be clear. I do believe these common sense policy moves are critical to the future safety of Virginians and Americans. And at the end of the day, that is our ultimate objective. Yes, for Virginia to be the very best place to live and work and raise a family, and to be the safest place in America. This is about empowering law enforcement to do the jobs that they have been so well trained to do. And I want to thank those dedicated men and women of law enforcement for running to danger when others run away and exemplifying what servant leadership is all about. They show courage every single day, and I am deeply committed to make sure that we have their back and enable them to do those jobs. Finally, I do believe that Virginia being the safest place in America is within our grasp, and steps like today will get us there. And so we can fulfill the Virginia promise of being the very best place to live and work and raise a family. And as I say every day as we are gathered in big groups, now is the time to go to work. It's time to step forward and complete this task and include and pass no sanctuary city language in this year's budget. Thank you all very much, and may God bless you.